One of the books that I come back to over and over again is actually a picture book. It lives in my living room, and every now and again I open it and flick through it, and almost always it makes me smile. And that book is this: The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. It's like a super heartwarming tale of these four characters. They're all a bit different. Maybe I'll put some images up on the screen now. You have the mole, who's like a bit obsessed with cake, but he learns one day that hugs are better. And you have the fox, who doesn't say very much, but you know that's okay and they love him anyway. And you have the horse, who's kind of old and wise. And one of my favourite cartoons by Charlie Mackesy, the guy who wrote this book, actually it's not in this book, but it's a conversation between the boy and the horse. And the boy says, "You've done so much for me, but what have I done for you?" And the horse says, "You have been a friend, and that is a wonderful thing." Today we are talking about friendship, and the reason I love that book is because it's about friendship. And you know what? Friendship is something that like rings true in all of our hearts. We long for it. It's something we love to have. I was thinking about starting this talk with a silly question like, if someone came to your door and offered you something, how much would they have to offer to get all of your family and all of your friends so that you'd never see them again? If they gave you a lifetime supply of your favourite food, would you consider it? If they gave you unlimited money, would you consider it? If they gave you superpowers or something? But really, it's a silly question. Because we know, I think, deep down, friendship is priceless. We know that you could have everything you ever wanted. You could have ridiculous money and live in an incredible house and be super rich, but if you have no friends, you are actually poor. Friendship is priceless. And so we're going to be thinking today and next week about friendship. How can we have amazing friendship? And how can we be amazing friends? So we said a couple of weeks ago, God designed friendship. This is something that God designed, and he designed it to be good. So let's ask him. Let's ask the one who made friendship and find out what great friendship can look like. So if you've got a Bible, grab it or switch it on and go to 1 Samuel chapter 18. We are going to look at one of the absolute masters of friendship in the Bible, and his name is Jonathan. Bit of backstory for you. Just before this, what we're about to read, slightly famous guy called David has killed Goliath. Okay, famous story. And David has come back and he's met with Saul, who is the king of Israel. Now Saul had a son. His name is Jonathan. He's our hero today. David meets with Saul the king. He's just kind of come to fame for killing Goliath, and then this is what happens next. 1 Samuel 18, starting at verse 1. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return to his father's house. Bit harsh. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic and even his sword, his bow, and his belt. The first friendship lesson I think we learn from Jonathan is this: good friendship is willing to make the first move. Good friendship is willing to make the first move. One of the things you notice as you read the story of David and Jonathan's friendship is that it's not really about David. David doesn't really do anything. I mean, David is one of the heroes of the Bible, but he doesn't do much in this friendship. It's all Jonathan. Jonathan loved David as he loved himself. Jonathan made a covenant, like a committed promise of friendship with David. Jonathan gave David his armor and his robes and his weapons as gifts. It's all about what Jonathan did. Jonathan made the first move. Good friendship is willing to make the first move. I've experienced this in my life and it has been huge for me. I'm going to tell you a story about how I once had lunch in the Houses of Parliament, okay? So I'd met this guy a few times in passing. He was a friend of a friend and his name is Benji. And I didn't really know him, but one day, out of the blue, I got an email from him. Actually, it wasn't from him, it was from his secretary. "Do you want to come and have lunch with Benji? He would like me to arrange a meeting with you." And I was like, who emails me through their secretary? Also, is he going to like hire me for a job? What am I supposed to do? So I said, yeah, great, I'd love to come and have lunch. And he said, great, come to this address. I went there, and it turned out it was basically right next to the Houses of Parliament. And we went and had lunch, like in the House of Lords. But it was quite funny because I was wearing like normal clothes, like jeans and a hoodie or something. And this guy from the House of Lords came and kicked us out, and it was all a bit funny. But I really got on with Benji. We had a great time. He encouraged me. He's a few years older than me. He prayed with me. We chatted about life and everything, and he gave me a lot of wisdom. And we're still good friends today, 10 years later. He made the first move. He was willing to put himself out there through his secretary and send an email and say, would you like to hang out? And sometimes that's all good friendship needs to be. It's just being willing to be the person who sends the first message, to be the one who makes the first move, to be the one who says, hey, how you doing? Hey, would you like to chat? Would you like to hang out? Good friendship makes the first move like Jonathan did for David. And you know what? David needed his friendship with Jonathan. It became absolutely crucial to David's life and survival if you read the rest of the story, and we will in a minute. But good friendship makes the first move. What might that look like for you today? Who might it be that God is just highlighting? Maybe even now there's someone in your mind that you're like, oh, actually it would be really good just to be the one who starts a conversation with that person. Maybe it's someone at school who seems a bit lonely. Actually, just being the person who says, you know what, I'm going to go and reach out to them. Send them a message, say hello. When you're back at school in person, go and chat to them. Good friendship makes the first move. But here's the thing. Some of us are going to be listening to this and we're going to be thinking, okay, that's all great and nice, Steve, but I need someone to do that for me. Where is my Jonathan friend? Where's the person who's going to make the first move to me? And I'm kind of joking about it, but it's true, isn't it? Like a lot of us, we feel lonely. Maybe especially at the moment in lockdown, it's a lonely time, and what we really want is someone to reach out to us. Maybe that's something you've experienced actually over a longer period of time. What do we do if we're lonely? Well, I think there might be a few things that help us with that. Loneliness is really hard, and it's something that most people experience at some point in their life. The first thing that has helped me is just knowing there's a verse in the Psalms that says, God puts the lonely in families. And we can ask God to help us with loneliness, to provide friends for us. I've seen him answer that prayer so many times in my own life and other people's lives. Sometimes it's not the friends you expect, but it's the friends you need. But I've seen it so many times, God actually bring friends when we feel like we have none. God loves to put the lonely in families, and he'll love to provide friends for you. So you can ask him for that. The second thing, another verse from the Psalms, is that God is close to the brokenhearted. I've had at least 2 times in my life where I can remember where I felt really lonely for a long time. One when I was 17 in sixth form at school, and another just a few years ago in my 20s. And I would never go back to them if I didn't have to. They were hard. They were really hard times. At the same time, those times of being lonely were some of the closest times I've felt to God in my entire life. Some of the times when I've known God be with me and help me the most are in those times. And one of the really distinctive things about being a Christian and talking about friendship is it's not just about all these things you have to do, okay? It's not just about reaching out and everything. Actually, one of the core things about being about friendship when you're a Christian is knowing you have a friend. Jesus made the first move to you, and he will always do that. God moves to us. God is our friend. He is described as a friend in the Bible multiple times. Jesus says to his disciples, I don't call you servants, I call you friends. We always have a friend, and he is especially close to us when no one else is. But the third thing, sometimes in loneliness, actually the solution, and it's a strange thing to say and it's hard, but the solution is for us to reach out. Jesus said, and Paul writes about it, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And this is especially true with friendship. Sometimes making the first move is hard because you think, I don't want to have to always be the giver. I want to have some friends who are there for me. But it's funny, I've had a few friends in my life where I've made the first move, reached out, said, it'd be great to hang out or something. And actually, in the end, the friendship benefits me probably way more than it benefits them. I got a couple of friends in particular where that's happened. I thought I was doing them a favour. Turns out the friendship has blessed me so much more. And sometimes that's true. And I think it's because it's more blessed for us to give than to receive. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Sometimes we make the first move and people don't want to hang out with us. And that's okay. But you know what? So many times God blesses us. What might it look like for you to make the first move? And the second thing, just quickly, is good friendship is willing to lose. Or you could say good friendship is willing to come second. So later in the story, right, of Jonathan and David, David has got super famous. He beat Goliath, he's a super successful general, he's beaten everyone else, and Saul, the king, gets a bit jealous. He's like, this guy David is going to take the throne if I'm not careful. And in the end, he's like, I need to kill him. I need to get rid of David so he doesn't steal the throne from me. And so David finds himself in the wilderness, in the middle of nowhere. And who turns up? Jonathan. You see, up to this point, you might have been like, well, Jonathan's just a fanboy, like who wouldn't want to be friends with David? David's the star. He must have had loads of fans, and Jonathan's just like a particularly devoted fanboy. Like if you're like a really hardcore Justin Bieber fan, that's like what Jonathan was to David. But when you think about it, Jonathan was the heir to the throne, Saul's son. Jonathan had a lot to lose if David became king. But listen to what Jonathan says. Okay, we're in 1 Samuel chapter 23, starting at verse 15. 1 Samuel 23:15. While David was at Horesh in the desert of Ziph, he learned that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son Jonathan went to David at Horesh and helped him to find strength in God. Don't we all need friends who do that, who help us to get strength in God? Don't be afraid, he said. My father Saul will not lay a hand on you. You shall be king over Israel, and I will be second to you. Can you believe that Jonathan said that? He said to David, you're going to be king and I'll be second to you. Good friendship is willing to be second. And this is so hard because in good friendship, sometimes we get tempted to compete with people. We see someone who's a little bit more popular than us, or who's doing a bit better than us at sport or music or school, is more funny than us or whatever, and we get jealous and we want to compete, and so that gets in the way of us really being friends. Sometimes the people that we most feel like we're competing with are actually the people we're most called to befriend. Jonathan does that. He doesn't compete with David. He is willing to come second and cheer David on. Jesus does that for you and for me. He came down to earth. He was willing to give up everything, willing to come second, willing to die for our friendship with him. And we can do it too. And I've had to learn this the hard way. I finished with this story. When I turned up at uni, I thought of myself as a good musician. Specifically as a good worship leader. I loved playing guitar in church, and I thought I was quite good at it. But one of the very first events I went to, it was all these first year students, and there was another guy there, another first year, same age as me, who was a little bit better at singing and a little bit better at playing guitar. And they asked him specifically if he would get up and lead worship for the whole group. And I was like, what? Why did they pick him and not me? We've only just got here. Why is he suddenly on this stage? Why couldn't it be me? I remember writing in my journal that evening, being like, God, this is so unfair. This should be me up there. And this guy, he's amazing. He's so anointed. Why is he so good and not me? And I was so frustrated. This guy's name, as it happens, was Paddy Heaton. Some of you will know him. And I can affirm that he's still a better musician than me. But you know what? I had to learn the hard way. I can't compete. It's not right for me to be jealous of this guy, to try and compete with him, to try and be better and do one up. And I had that temptation. But someone had told me before I went to uni, you've got to remember, when you go to uni, when you go to a new environment, people are always trying to vie for position, trying to be the best, trying to be the funniest or whatever. And you need to know your identity is a child of God. We talked about that last week, didn't we? Remember who you are. You do not need to compete for who you are. You're a child of God. So instead of competing, you can encourage. You can cheer them on. And so I had to learn. And actually the happy ending is me and Paddy became great friends. And we used to meet up every week and pray for each other. But I think that only happened because God had to do something in my heart and convince me not to compete, but to cheer him on. Good friendship is willing to come second, willing to cheer someone else on instead of competing with them. What does that look like for you? Who is it that you feel maybe a bit jealous of or a bit envious of? That you struggle to be friends with because you kind of want to be better than them? And how can you cheer them on? How can you encourage someone? Sometimes we feel awkward about our words. We think, it'd be weird to send a nice message, but almost always people love receiving messages like that. Your family, your siblings or parents would love to hear something kind that you would say about them. The youth team, other people in the youth group would love to hear encouragement. What might it look like for you to cheer someone else on? And very finally, as we come to a close, some hope. One of the other distinctive things about being a Christian when we talk about friendship is that there is a promise in the Bible specifically for you. And it says you will be transformed from glory to glory as you behold God. And what that means is the closer we get to God, the more we get to know him, the more he will change us and make us into the kind of friends we would love to be. As God comes to live in us in the Holy Spirit, he will turn us more and more into loving people, more and more into the kind of people who can be amazing friends. And when we can be amazing friends, who knows what kind of incredible impact that will have on our families, on our schools, on our communities, on the world. You can make an enormous difference in people's lives. You can shine an enormously bright light for God. Let's go out there, let's ask for God's help, and let's be amazing friends.